Okay, delighted to be joined by Billy Walsh, head of USA Boxing. Billy, I'm impressed you haven't lost the accent yet.
Well, I immigrated when I was 52, so I didn't leave when I was 16 or 17. So it's a bit hard. It's a bit hard to lose it. And then, I did tell my friends when I was leaving Wexford that if I come back with an American accent, they've my permission to shoot me. So I'm I do my best to hold on to it.
Very good. No, fair play. Come here, tell me a bit about your journey. I was on to someone else, Graham Byrne. I'm not sure if you overlapped with him with the Wexford Hurlers, but he wanted to know, like, tell us a bit about your journey from going from County Wexford to Colorado with head of USA Boxing. If I told you that when you were a teenager, would you have said absolutely no way, or what would you have said?
I'd have been crazy. I growing up in a working class environment in Wexford Town, a place called Wolfstone Villas. The dream of being head coach of the USA Olympic boxing team, it was pretty unrealistic. Yeah, look, it's been how far do you want to go on the journey? I can bring it back till I was 7 years of age when I started this crazy game. Um, and I suppose I played multiple sports at that time. I was playing hurling, football, Gaelic football, and soccer, and played all of those to a reasonable standard. Played under 15 soccer for Wexford, under 14 hurling and Gaelic football for Wexford, minor for Wexford. And we had actually a Leinster hurling final where we played Kilkenny, our friendly neighbours in Crow Park in 1981, and we were winning with 5 points with 6 minutes to go, and they beat us by a point. And that day, sort of, at that stage, I had won four Irish titles and as a boxer, and I decided that I wanted to go to the Olympics, and I wasn't going to go there playing hurling, so I decided to focus on obviously training and focus on my boxing. The following year, then I won my first elite title in Ireland at 19. From there on, then I stayed at it. I didn't get picked for the LA game and made it for the Seoul Olympics in 1988.
That was actually, I was listening to a presentation you did before about learning that you weren't selected for the LA games. You actually heard it, was it on RTE or something on the TV? And that was obviously a massive setback for you at the time.
Yeah, it was on the radio, RT radio. The news were on. I was in Dominic Kiernan got me good to me since passed, but he had a fitness gym in Wexford Town, and I used to go there the days that I wasn't in the boxing club. I used to go there to train, and it was a Saturday afternoon, and I'm in there. I was making 63.5 kilos that time, or for those who were born in my generation, it was 10 stone. And so I had to struggle making that weight, and had a sauna suit on me, and I was there on the treadmill running, and here comes the news, and the sports news come on at the end of it, and they said the Irish Olympic boxing team has just been announced, and I wasn't on it. That's how I found out. And I walked out of that gym. That was in May, and I didn't go back to a gym again till October of that year. Yeah, nearly finished me boxing.
Yeah, but that was what I was going to ask. Like, how did you find it? Like, at the time, obviously, taking that break, going back, was it, right, I'm going to show them, or I'm just going to prove to myself I'm good enough? How did you kind of manage that?
Yeah, I went back hurling and football, and I was playing down with my club at senior level, and we won the county football championships, and we got beaten after replay in the hurling in the hurling, and so I was busy. I kept myself busy, and then the winter came, and you know, yeah, I got the longing to go back to the gym again and get back into it, and um, we actually went to the national championships. I wasn't going to go then. I was helping coach the guys in the club, and I started training in a couple of weeks previous to it, and I went to the national championships at a weight above what I should be, and I ended up winning. And then I got selected for the world championships, and so I had to get back. That's how they got me back into it. And I have to say, I'm going to give credit to a guy who the company I worked with was Pierce Engineering, and the guy who was the manager at the time, his name was Mick Miller. And Mick was a former boxer himself. Knew I had won the national championships, and he called me over and asked me, "What are you going to do now?" And I said, "Mick, I told you I was like finished. I didn't want to be taking any more time off work." And he said, "Look, if you want to go," he said, "I'll give you the opportunity, and we look after you. We look after you." And that's how I got back into it. And I boxed for another 4 or 5 years after that. I would have retired because I had got married and my wife had had a baby, and you know, we're living normal life things, and yeah, thanks to Mick Miller, I went back and fought for another 4 or 5 years.
What was it like then going to Seoul and fulfilling the dream that not only it was always your childhood dream, but for to have it taken away with the LA Games and going back to it? What were the emotions of that
Yeah,
going to those games?
yeah, it was a big emotional time for me, and I have to say the people of Wexford were absolutely fantastic and did fundraising, and the support I got. I suppose I was the only one ever from the town ever to go to the IBA Games at that time, and it was a fantastic honour to represent them. But then, getting there and the village, and actually march in the parade and the opening ceremony. And I remember myself and Michael Cruz when we got to the final piece, when they lit the flame, we hugged each other and said we made it. We had made it. Our childhood dreams are true. So it was it was an amazing time. Unfortunately, in the boxing terms, and it didn't work out that great. Fought a guy that I had fought 6 months previous and knocked him out in the first round, and I ended up trying him he was actually from Korea as well, and then he beat me. Yeah, I got cut twice, and we got stopped in the last round. Yeah, it was a boxing disaster in that respect.
Yeah, how do you find it now coaching? Like, how has your career as a boxer shaped you as a coach? Is there any particular approaches that you take due to your experience as a boxer?
Yeah, I think a lot of it, most of it is obviously with the experiences I've had, and a lot of things that they shouldn't be doing. Make sure they're not going to fall into the same traps that I fell into, and trying to have a program that has all the resources around it. So if the boxer needs those resources, they're there at their fingertips. We were in Ireland at the time. We didn't really have it. Tell you a funny story. We went to acclimatise for Korea, which was, I think, a 9-hour time difference, and like 90 odd degrees heat and 80 something degrees humidity. We went to a place in County Kerry for acclimatisation camp. Was in near Sneem in County Kerry, a place called Castle Cove. Yeah, not far from the back of Daniel O'Connell's house in Carrick. Yeah, yeah, that was our warm weather training for Seoul.
And how do you find it? I've heard you speak about it before. Like, obviously, hearing about not being picked for the Olympics on the radio has shaped the way you give feedback, and you sit down with a person, you're very honest. Do you have a particular structure with feedback? Let's say if I'm on the program and you're cutting me, how do you go about that meeting or that process?
Well, there's a consistent sort of with the team. There's a consistent evaluation stage with them, so they're pretty. We get them used to getting evaluated. And every week we'd sit them down. We tell them where they're going wrong or where they're going right. And we do this now in January. Our team national championships are on over here this week. The winners of that will come in and challenge the team here for the next qualifier. So, they're getting used to that process, but it's always difficult. You're giving people bad news, right? And half of it is really good because you're giving people good news. You tell them, right, you've been selected, but then you got to do the bad pieces rather. And it's not easy for anybody, and particularly for myself, because you're very close to people and you understand what it means to them. It shuts out their career for 4 years, maybe, and at least 4 years, maybe forever. You don't know, but it is a very difficult task. But I just found that the best way to give it is face to face and to be honest. And it's difficult, but once you get it out and get it out there, And many boxers have come back and said, "Look, I'm so glad you gave it to me in this manner." Uh, so rather than we send them a letter or send them an email or give them a phone call and tell them we do it here in front, face to face, and actually run down through the criteria that we had and where they scored on us, and where they can be better as we go forward.
How do you find it I know I've heard you speak before, but I can tell by your very kind, gentle human being, when you're going in to give someone cold, hard feedback, how do you remove the emotion of it all?
Yeah, it is difficult for me. I think really it's just, I have to go to the stage where I'm brutally honest and tell them how it is, and it's a hard piece to do. As I said to you, I'm a nice guy. I don't like offending people or in general, but when it has to be done, it's part of your job, and you got to do it. And at the end of the day, all I want is the best person or the best boxer to represent the USA. And so it's nothing. It doesn't hold anything against who they are and what type of person they are. It's actually just how they performed over this period of time. And we break it down to that, and it's not about them, and it's about how they performed, really. And there's many criteria along that way that gives them an opportunity to improve that.
Aside from injury, I've asked a couple of coaches this question. What's been the biggest common barrier that you see that kind of gets in the way of athletes reaching their potential? Is there any common things or obstacles you see just athletes continuing to kind of fall at?
I think for most of us, I think it's the mental game is a big part, especially, I suppose, having played multiple sports. I think in the boxing ring, you're actually, people are going to hit you. I know when you're playing hurling, someone might hit you. You're not supposed to, but yeah, it does happen, and it does to Gaelic football and soccer and all of those sports. But in boxing, it adds an extra dimension to it. Like, you actually are going to get punched in the face. So that's a difficult piece. And then getting the performance piece and not performing, I found has been a major factor for a lot of athletes. It's to win and perform, and nobody likes losing, but if you perform to the best of your ability and lost, well, then there's not a whole lot you can do. But going in there and underperforming is it holds you back quite a bit, or it hurts you a hell of a lot more.
Are there any particular qualities that you look for in a boxer apart from physical ability or actual ability in the ring? Are there any qualities that you try look for, you've seen among successful people?
I think for everybody, I think it's honesty, and I also think they're open-minded. They're open-minded to learning. I really feel that we could teach anybody, and we could see their size and see what stature they have, and the length and the height and width and all of those things, and how fast they are and all of that. But we have a tactic that can encompass all sorts of shapes and sizes. And once people are open-minded to learn and willing to give it 100%, I can guarantee you we make a better boxer out of them.
So you're saying I have a chance, is it?
Yeah, I have a chance. Well, you're a little bit too you're a little bit too pretty to become a boxer.
That's actually interesting that you bring up the mental side of it, because another question I love asking people about in sport, whether it's coach or an athlete, is when you get into the thick of it as a percentage or kind of splitting it between the two, is boxing more mental or physical?
Obviously, without doubt, the mental is a major part. We go into a game or into the competitions where we're fighting, 5 days in a week or whatever it takes, and with that, if you're having success, there's a bit of momentum. Then there's expectations. You're getting to the medal rounds, and then heading to the gold medal rounds. You can imagine the pressure and the expectation that's on you when you get. We've been fortunate enough to have a few people who've got to Olympic finals. The expectation and everything that you've got to deal with for that, and that's pure mental. To get in there and perform again, and each day you're being battle worn and hurt and sore, and maybe some injuries along the way, and then the last day of all of that, you've got to perform to the best of your ability, right? So it's a phenomenal mental piece to get people in that frame of mind that they can get out and produce their best really when it counts. When you're at the best games are the toughest. That's why I always say it's the toughest medal to ever win is an Olympic medal, an Olympic gold medal in particular. The whole world, or there was like something like 3.5 billion of a population that watched the last Olympic Games. Almost the whole world is looking at you.
What do you say then when you're going into an Olympic final to the boxer? How do you keep them level-headed when you've got the world watching you and your country waiting for you to bring home a medal?
Yeah, we tried to take those stressors out of it. There's family and stuff that we've already planned how we're going to communicate with them, their coach, or their club coaches, and all of that. So we're trying to, we ask them to turn their phones off and keep away from all the hype, and all of that. So it's we're having fun. We're going in here to enjoy it. What an opportunity it is. So yeah, it's and having a shoot. We're trying to keep everything as same as ever for every fight that we go to.
And it's interesting, like managing the last Olympics with COVID, and I know you had to move out of the high performance centre. You went into an old Macy's store, and you're looking at kind of the future of amateur boxing. There is a bit of it is a little bit up in the air at the moment. How do you manage that uncertainty and that doubt, and kind of control the chaos really?
Yeah, I think there's always those long-term plans, but for most of these guys, they don't see too far down the road, thankfully. And we're really good at staying in the moment and focusing on what we can do now that's going to help us in 6 months or 3 months or 2 weeks time, So we're always focusing on whatever today's session is, all of that politics and all of that stuff will sort itself out. We're confident. World boxing now has started up, which is going to be the new federation for the Olympic Games. So everything's in the process of happening, and as I said, that's how we worked on a day-to-day basis, and we looked at one tournament at a time, one day, one round, one punch. We just kept it simple as possible, and just reassured them, look, don't worry about you hear all this noise in the background. At the end of the day, we're going to have to be ready, and that's how we ended up in the Macy's store, because of COVID, we weren't allowed into the training center here. So we took all of our equipment out, but we moved over there because they knew the Olympic Games were going to happen. And we can't just turn up and if we lose, we say, oh, well, I had COVID, or the COVID stopped us from training. Everybody in the world has COVID, right? We got to be ready. This is going to happen. We got to be ready. And thankfully we ended up, we won 4 Olympic medals.
When you're in the thick of it and you're at the games and you've got a medal on the line and you've maybe a minute, 30 seconds to chat to your boxer, how do you manage the emotion of it all? I think I heard you before, you had a great kind of line. You were like, every second your heart is beating, like it's like three beats per second when you're in the ring. It's the most intense you'll ever be. How do you manage and control the chaos and kind of prioritize what needs to be said without kind of wasting that time? How do you manage that?
Yeah, we really focus on ourselves, and we got a minute between those 3-minute rounds. We get a minute when the boxer comes back in to actually get him to recover. We get him to breathe deeply, slow down the heart rate, give him obviously the chance to recover. We've actually shown the boxers here live in competition and training camps and stuff, how quickly they will recover when they focus on the breathing. So we get them to focus on their breathing, right? And then we give them a couple of clear instructions as they're going in there. Okay, clear instructions of what to do. Very, very simple. You simplify it and intensify it. That's how we sort of talk about it. That and all the way up to the ring, we're having fun. We're telling jokes. We're having a bit of laugh. I'm trying to break the tension and make sure they're in good form and even tell them some corny jokes and some kids jokes and whatever I can come up with at the time, and it is a tense moment, but we try to take the tension as much as we can out of it, and we understand what they're going through. So then we try and just keep the instruction is very, very simple, and and that's usually what works best.
Where do you learn that, Billy? Is that through courses, from learning from other people, experience? How do you learn it to manage these scenarios or situations?
Well, I'd be very fortunate to work with lots of really good people, and learn from a lot of people, and I suppose added to what your own experiences and what will work for you. And we had a psychologist through the Irish team, was a great guy, and a great psychologist, Jerry Hussey. So we would have learned a lot from that time. And we got some really good quality people over here now in the US as well. They speak the same language. And so, I think when Jerry was working with the Irish team, he actually worked with me more than he worked with all the boxers.
Wow.
Not that I needed it more. But anyway, but in the actual fact of it was that, he wasn't going to be there 99 or 100% of the time. I was going to be there. So he worked with me then on delivering of what the language that I should be using and what have you.
Okay.
So that's why I've held on to that, and it's worked pretty well for us here as well.
Yeah, that's really interesting. How did you find building a culture in Ireland and the States? Like, how do you start in a setup? What do you do on day one?
Well, you just lay out your stall, right? You lay out your focus on, for every one of them, what the vision is and what the mission is, right? If you want to be part of this team, here's what your obligations are. If you don't want to be part of it, that's okay. We find somebody else. I think that's really how we started. We have to have a vision of where we want to go, and then set up a mission for a shorter term mission for the team, and that gives them a focus that we're all either on board or we're not on board. If you're not on board, well then, unfortunately, you have to move out. And I remember when we started in Ireland. Remember with Gary Keegan we lined all the team up, and we had a white line and drawn on the gym floor. And we said, look, at anybody who wants to join high performance, step over the line. Haven't given the instructions around how it was going to be and how we expected them to behave. And they all stood over the line, but by the end of that year, we had lost half our team. They couldn't stick the intensity, they couldn't stick, the discipline and the structure around it. And we lost half of our team, which, and at the people called for our heads pretty early in Ireland at that time. It was taking a while till we got the ball rolling and started to have success, And very similar to here, when I came here then, I had a team to start off with, and I think it's pretty well known to myself and Clarissa Shields, who was twice Olympic champion, didn't get on that great at the beginning. And, at the end I was here, I came in at the end of October, and by Christmas I sat down with her, the performance director and the CEO, and I said to them, either she's going home or I'm going home, right? Right. So I can't have this attitude and training and atmosphere around the rest of the team. And they backed me, in fairness to her, she went home for Christmas and came back a different lady. And thankfully, she went on to win her second gold medal. So you got to, I suppose, lay out your stall, right? At the end of the day, you're the one who's going to be judged at the end of the day. And you can say, it was this or it was that. You can have all sorts of excuses. But at the end of the day, if you're not doing the right thing, you got to make sure they're doing the right thing, because you're going to reap the benefits from it, or you're going to end up being sacked.
Yeah, that's reality. What are your non-negotiables for your athletes to join the program, apart from no music during training? I know that was an issue. There's
a few, but I think one of them is obviously commitment. 100% commitment. These guys give up their lives. They moved to Colorado. Nobody here is from Colorado. So you got to get commitment to the program. Wherever we go on, like all of us, you miss birthdays and you miss weddings and you miss whatever it takes. If you're in this program, you're fully immersed in the program, what it takes to become an Olympian. Other than that, some simple stuff, being on time. I'm a stickler. If you're not 15 minutes early, you're late. So And they all know that, and they've all, some of them at different stages have felt the pain of it. But in general, that's it. Honesty, hard work. It's common sense, but sometimes isn't that common. And and once everyone's behaving themselves, yeah, outside of the ring, which is very important to me, because we do, maybe some people have a perception of boxers, and maybe not the best, and I want these guys to be portraying themselves and portraying what boxers are. We're ordinary people. We're ordinary working class people, a lot of us, and we're then genuinely nice people. So we're not all those, as the thugs and maybe some people turn us to take us out to be, So so once they portray themselves and represent their sport, and they get a fantastic opportunity. I probably didn't appreciate it myself when I was doing it, but you get a chance to represent your country. There's many people out there would die for that opportunity, and these guys and girls get an opportunity to that. So with that, there's a little bit of a burden, that the fact that you got to behave and got to be, special when you're wearing that jersey and representing your country.
Graham had another question that he wanted me to ask you, and I've gotten sick of the word high performance, or the two words high performance. But he wanted me to ask you, and I'm going to ask for your definition of world class. What does it mean to be world class?
I think for me, anybody can perform, have a good, a good performance on a given day, right? But to do it on a consistent basis, for me, is what defines world class. And that's what these guys here and gals here, that's what we work towards. It's been consistently delivering good world class performances. That you're consistently going out to these tournaments and winning medals, and that turns you into a world class athlete, right? And as I said, anybody can have a freak one off, but to do it consistently. And if you're going to fight at Olympic Games, the 5 fights that you're going to have to win, you're either fighting, from the 4 or 5 continents that are out there, the champion of that along the way. You're fighting some of the best in the world, and those 5 fights to become a gold medalist is definitely the best in the world.
What do you enjoy about all this, Billy? Is it the thrill of the event? Is it the day-to-day stuff? What's the best part for you?
Yeah, I think it's that's not just the thrill of the event. Obviously, that's our goal at the end of it. But I think I just enjoy being around the people. I enjoy helping people to achieve their goals. It was probably, I didn't achieve all of mine. Definitely didn't achieve a lot of them, but I really enjoy helping see these young adults, achieve their dream, and it's nice to be part of that and to have a lending hand along the way. I get a great reward from that. That's all I need, really. And I know, as 20 years ago, actually, I started working full time as a coach. In Ireland, we started in 2003. And, and I haven't really worked a day since. So I got a job at my passion and something I loved. I started it when I was 7. Who gets that opportunity? So I thank God every day how lucky I've been to be in this position. First of all, to be hired in Ireland, and then obviously 12 years later to come to the United States, which I'm here 8 years now. Which is hard to believe, but yeah, it's been a roller coaster, but it's been very fruitful in many ways.
When you mentioned the word consistency, I'd Cora Staunton on, the male footballer. She kind of had some interesting insights for players or athletes or coaches listening. When you're trying to teach or develop consistency, how do you do it? What's the guide to developing consistency?
Well, they say that, I've read a great quote one day. It said, "You never rise to the occasion; you only fall to the level of your training." So I think that's really consistency for me. We're seeing it every day in the gym, because you very seldom see anybody throw a freak performance out unless you're seeing this in the gym every day or in competition or whatever. So I think that's, for me, is the consistency is, and then delivering that. I've seen the consistency in the gym many, many times, and people haven't delivered it because of psychological reasons, whatever, and so again, that world class piece is actually delivering consistently what you're doing in the gym on the world stage. Being able to deliver that's what makes you world class.
Okay, brilliant. I'm going to ask you, how do you define success working with an athlete? What is your own, aside from maybe the program or the athlete's goals, how do you define success with your athletes?
It can vary, but in general, it really revolves around, we really focus on performance. I mean, obviously, we're in the world of, metrics now. So we've a lot of metrics on what to do. And so that's really focusing around the athlete's performance. And if we get the best performance, because, as you know, in boxing, the judging hasn't always been great, right? And so you can't really rely on the 5 people around the ring making a correct decision. But we focus on the performance of the athlete, and it's to reach the metrics that we set out, prior to the fight or to the competition, the standards that we set out for them to achieve, and if they've achieved them, that's success.
Very good. It's simple, but not simple at the same time.
Yeah, I know. At the end of the day, probably my job depends on winning medals and being at a certain level in the world. But at the end of the day, I found the best way for the athletes is actually focus on performance, because if we're going looking for the finishing line, we're probably going to trip up somewhere along the way.
Yeah, you're right. I'm interested as well. How do you balance ability, like current ability and potential? How do you? I said the word potential to before and said I hate that word. How do you find potential?
Yeah, lots of people have potential, but who delivers on it? I think. Yeah, there's lots of people that we've had here with potential and actually haven't been able to deliver it. And you're given every opportunity here, and we put them through lots of hoops and tests and what have you. But performing in the ring at the end of the day is what really counts, And if they can't get those performers out within the potential, very quickly sort of dissipates, right? But you will do, and we take these kids in here at 15, as a junior team program, and you can see the potential in lots of them in that time, but it's just got to be nurtured properly and developed properly, to go along with your psychological growth. A 15-year-old to maybe have the skills of an elite athlete, but don't have the physicality and don't have the mental attributions that you need as having matured enough and having grown. So there's all sorts of stuff, but I think minding that and being careful of that, because we're very inclined, especially I'm a parent as well, so we're inclined to push our kids. We think our Johnny is the best Johnny in the world, and we're inclined to push them too far, instead of keeping them in their own age brackets and let them be successful at that and let them develop mentally as well as physically before they move them on to the next level.
Graham had another question for you. He wanted to know, how can we develop more world-class coaches in Ireland? Because as we were kind of discussing, myself and Graham were saying, you're probably one of the very few we have on a world stage that is Irish. Maybe rugby, you could maybe make that argument, but how do you find it, entering the world of high performance sport as an Irishman, and how can we develop more Irish people on the world-class stage?
Right, that's a very good question. I think I found it difficult when I retired from boxing and then transitioned into a coach. There was actually nothing out there at the time for me. Right, we had a level 1 coaching course in the IBA at the time, and I did that while I was still a boxer. So I was already qualified as a coach, but there was no other progress there. And then they were looking for tutors down in Limerick. Well, we went to Limerick to train first. So we had tutors for the IBA going around giving coaching courses. So I was lucky enough to get elected to go on that. And then I became a tutor, which enabled us to work with lots of other sports in that course over that period of time, which was great. Knowledge and, to gain from other sports to see what they do and how they do it and all of that. So yeah, and I think the Irish Sports Council now have got a lot better and coach development. I went down from that, and I did a couple of courses out in the IMI, which I found very good. Again, you're in with business people, again, learning a lot of similarities between us. And yeah, so that, I think coach development within each national governing body is essential. You know, we just take it for granted sometimes that these people would turn up. And if I was, you know, a young coach starting off, as I was, I'm still searching for more knowledge as much as I can. Yeah, I'm out there all the time reading, trying to pick up some new ideas. And actually, when I was home, there was a conference on down in Dunleary, and I went to see my old boss speak at it, Gary Keegan. It was a great day. So yeah, go and listen to people speak, you know, how they have achieved their success, and steal a piece from everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been messaging Gary. I'm trying to get him to come on as well, because he had a lot to offer. If I could give you the key to enter any sport or team or coach in the world, Billy, and just observe for a week, who would it be and why? Who would you love to just be a fly on the wall with?
Well, that's a very good question. Huh? There you put it. Actually, I'm going to have to say it. If the guy is no longer coaching now, but Alex Ferguson. I happen to be a Manchester United fan, and so yeah, Alex Ferguson. Even Ten Hag at the moment, I would like to go and spend some time with him and have a look at how he operates. You know, I was impressed with a lot of his stuff, and I was going through a bad patch again. But a lot of stuff he was talking about, and yeah, you know, I would have agreed with a lot of what he was doing, and I'd like to actually be in there and see how he operates and how the team works.
I'm interested as well. I'm involved in basketball, and our biggest issue in Ireland is we've all this potential, that potential word again, but we've very little funding and support, and we actually don't get national funding. We're not backed by Sport Ireland for our national teams. What are ways that we can improve the culture? And this can be for anyone. This can be for GA teams that are amateur. What are really simple ways of just making raising the bar or bringing it to a new level, maybe not world class, but a little bit better than we are now, more of an elite environment? What are really simple things that you've seen have worked really effectively?
Well, I think, you know, if you go back to the beginning of the Irish program, right, we started with very little, right, and we were nearly extinct from the Libby Games. We had one boxer in Sydney in 2000. And we were 10 months into the job, and we had one boxer in Athens that got qualified for Athens. That was Dandy Lee. Michael Roach was the guy from Cork in Sydney. So we were really in a bad place. You know, like financially, we weren't getting a whole lot of money from the Sports Council. By the time I left, we were the highest funded sport in the country. But when we started, I think Gary Keegan will tell you when you speak to him, was like the first salary, the first amount of money we got was 226,000, something like that, which encompassed 4 salaries. You know, so there wasn't a whole lot of money there for anybody and for the program. So I think the culture we built was internally, amongst the group and amongst ourselves. Don't forget all these guys. I think there was maybe 2 on the team that were from Dublin. Everybody else was from around the rest of the country, and we put the base in beside the National Stadium. And then we didn't have the money to pay for the hotel or pay for the B&B up the road. We bought blow-up beds, right? We bought blow-up beds down in the hardware store, and we slept on the gym floor, which was absolutely freezing in the winter. There was no heating in there, right? And you could see your breath in like smoke coming out like chimneys every night. But that's how we started. It really started, and then the program grew. We started having more success, and obviously we had to figure out how committed these guys were and girls. and that's what it took. And then the money grew, and then we started staying in the B&B, and then we eventually get out to a hotel, and I would stay in a hotel all the time. But that's, at the end of the day, you got to see what are they willing to do to follow the dream. Are they really interested in being an Olympian, or being a world champion, or being a county champion? Do they really want it, or is it nice to be it? If it's just nice to be part of it, you're never going to win anything.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah, was it as fun sleeping on the floor in the winter on the blow up bed as you talk about when you were saying, oh, I haven't worked a day since I picked up a job in boxing?
But those days where you're looking up at the ceiling and the smoke and your breath blowing out, you're saying, what the hell am I doing here? I got a warm bed at home.
When it's all said and done, Billy, and I know you're not nowhere near finished yet. I know you'll be involved in the sport for a long time to come, but when it is all said and done and you do eventually finish at whatever level you do finish at, what would you like to be remembered for when people say your name?
Oh, good question. I think first of all, I'd like to be remembered that I'm a Wexford man. Irish, and then really, I don't know, that somebody gave his all to his sport.
Brilliant, nice and simple. I'm going to run through what's called the Sideline 7. It's the same 7 questions at the end of every episode. We are near the end, and you've been very generous with your time, so thank you for that. Question 1, you've mentioned a few already, but what's your favourite quote?
That's my favourite quote. It's the Abraham Lincoln's quote. Is my favourite quote, which I'm trying to remember now. It says that I don't want to do any injustice. The best way to predict the future is to create it.
Very good.
I always because I had these people standing back, oh, moaning and whinging. I like create it, make it happen, create your own future, make it happen. Get out there and be brave enough to make it happen, right? And so I think the best way to predict the future is to create it.
Brilliant. Question 2, what's the best sporting event you've been to? And you pick one as a fan and one that you've been involved in.
Well, obviously, the Olympic Games, I've been fortunate enough to be to 6 of them. So the Olympic Games, I think as a boxer, obviously was Seoul. But Beijing, I thought was really special for that team. We had in Beijing and London, those 2 games in particular, we won 7 Olympic medals. It changed Irish sport. It changed the belief, but those, and what I love every year when I'm around, I used to go every year to the Gaelic football final and the hurling finals when I was in Ireland. I don't get much opportunity, but I love going. Those occasions, they're fantastic. And we got a group of my friends, we'd go the night before, we socialise and meet. Unfortunately, Wexford hadn't been in that many finals for a long time, but we go up and we socialise with people from other counties, and we just have a passion and love for GAA.
Yeah, isn't it interesting? Of all the events you could have picked, and if anyone was listening and doesn't know what that is, it's an amateur sport, and that's what came to mind. And for is that kind of brings to me that kind of Irish, that proud Irish mentality of their national sport, and it still doesn't beat any. Now the Olympics is probably maybe on par, maybe better sometimes, but I'm interested that the All Ireland finals came to your mind there. That's obviously a special moment or a special day in your heart.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's the All Irelands lift, I can remember 96. Wexford probably haven't stopped celebrating since, but I mean it was fabulous. It was fabulous. What it does for a community, a county, a town, it was fabulous. What the GAA does every day for kids, and similar to boxing, we're from all classes, and it just makes better people.
Brilliant. Question 3, what's been the biggest setback or challenge so far in your career, and how did you react to it?
The biggest setback, I suppose, was obviously in the boxing. As a boxer, was obviously losing the Olympic Games. That took me, I would say, the guts of 20 years to get over. Every time I spoke about it, you're looking at a speak now, and I'm not going to cry, right? But every time I spoke, I cried about it. And Gary Keegan helped me because we interviewed the team, the Irish team, as they were coming in for their places on the team, and he said to me, Billy, tell him the story about the Olympics. And I told him my story, and I used to cry every time I told him. I'd break down telling the story, right? And that helped me. It helped me to banish the demons of it, I suppose, and then figuring out, where I went wrong and all of that sort of stuff, throughout, becoming a coach, helped me. But that was probably a big setback. And I suppose if I was going to look at one, people might have thought leaving Ireland to come here was a big setback, but it actually wasn't. I felt at the time that was really bad because, as I've just stated, I'm 100% Irish, and to be a 7-year-old, to go right through the system in Ireland, become a league champion, become captain of the team for the Olympics, become the head coach, become the performance director, and then have to leave all that behind you. But what I would say, that was the best decision I ever made, to come to America, because it's broadened my horizons and helped me develop as well. It challenged me to develop, because when I got here, none of these people understood a bloody word I said. So my Wexford accent was doing really bad, right? And I hadn't got a clue what I said. And even times now, when they all nod their head and laugh, when I said, "You didn't understand that, did you?" And he says, "No, coach, I didn't. I can't get a clue." Anyway, yeah, that was a funny thing, but that was a challenge, because they're coming and thinking people to speak the same language, but actually, there's a big difference between Wexford English and English.
Well, I'm surprised I haven't heard the word. A friend of mine used to say it from Wexford. Queer.
Yeah, queer about that. I'm trying to be good here now. I give you my posh accent. If you want it, I give you. I'm queer nice, and you're queer nice home. That's a real Wexford lad.
Yeah, and I have to say, like that 20 years, like that's an incredible amount of time. Do you think that's now what kind of drives you in coaching, to not allow somebody to kind of experience those emotions and that regret that you kind of held on to for so long?
Oh, without doubt. Yeah, it's really, I've been just trying to prevent them from falling into the pitfalls that I fell into, and thankfully we've saved a few of them from that happening, So yeah, that's what's been really my driver, really, and obviously then each game, and there's a challenge there, and we've set some targets for ourselves along the way, and we're trying to achieve those, but in general, it's really to help these kids, and they're not kids now, they're adults. The main team I train are adults, but it's great just to help them not to fall into those pits, help them just get the best out of themselves, because at the end of the day, you can't control the outcomes, right? But if you can get the best out of yourself, getting the best out of the individual, I can walk away with pride, and they can walk away with pride, even though it may be in sorrow that we have lost. But is there anything we sit back and reflect, and is there anything we could have done in a lot of cases? There's not a lot of things we could have done to make it better.
Yeah. When you go through setbacks as a coach, sorry, this is not a question, but you've kind of opened up something I find really interesting. When you go through, like, let's say we're taking that in your own personal experience of losing, and that 20 years it took to get over it. And I know 2021 at the Olympics for yourself, beating Ireland was a big moment as well. I saw your post-fight interview, and you're obviously very emotional. When you're going through challenges or really tough times, is it time, separating the time between the event and now, and is it talking that helps you get over it, or do you have other coping strategies for when things don't go well?
I think I think for different people there's different devices, but for me it's taking the time to chill out, spend some time with my family, reflect, and then I'll sit down, either I'll pencil some stuff down, journal some stuff, or just talk about it. I think talking has helped me. I'm better at talking, I suppose, than I am at journaling. But yeah, talking is what's really helped me to talk it through, and to understand. We just come back from the Pan American Games. Well, it's a few weeks back now, but I spent a few weeks at home, great time and spending with the family and all that. But yes, I'm constantly going through my head around, what did we do really, really well, but what can we do better, and I've been constantly, that goes on in my head, and before I go to sleep every night, I would journal down some things from my thoughts and how it can be better. Like, how is it going to be better today for today's training session? I would, constantly be reflecting on that and then talking, most Irish people are pretty good at having the yap with people, so sit down for a cup of tea, or if you like going for a pint, go for a pint and have a chat with somebody. It always helps.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you find it hard to switch off? Is it, when we get to this world class stage, is it this constant, you're always on, you're always at 100%, or can you switch off at times?
I know I can switch off. It is, can be difficult at times, but I do find, I go to the sports I love watching. I go to watch the Gaelic games, and even I go to watch boxing. Actually, sometimes, well, it's great when you're not in the corner. Which is actually, you don't have any skin in the game. You don't like great to watch people fight. Sometimes it's love this game. Yeah, I do. Yeah, get out for walks. This is a beautiful part of the world up here in Colorado, and plenty of mountains and plenty of hikes and trails and what have you. So, yeah, I get away from it. I usually head back when we're getting a break here. I'm usually in Wexford. So walking the narrow streets of Wexford and saying hello to all the people that I grew up with.
Good stuff. I'm going to go back on track. We got sidetracked there, but I wanted to pick your brain about that. Kind of on the flip side then, what's been your biggest achievement in or outside the ring?
I was supposed to live until I was 60. It's probably a good one, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think, I've been fortunate enough to meet a girl when I was 15. And we ended up getting married when I was 24, and we're still together. So we had 3 kids, they're adults now, with 34, Sarah Jane, Marcus 31 at Christmas, and Ryan will be 29. Ryan will be 30 in February. So I think that's the best achievement, I think. Rearing a family and having a family and living a half decent life. I wouldn't say I'm good. I won't say I'm good all the time. I'm not have been good.
That's fair. Looking back, what advice would you give your 18-year-old self? And maybe just set the scene for us here a bit. You're about to embark on your boxing career, really. It's about to take that next jump.
Well, I had sort of, at 18, I was after winning 4 Irish titles, and so I was really pretty focused at that time. And and the advice I give to myself, I'd say, I left school young, right? I left school at 15 years of age. I became an apprentice fitter welder in John Jackman Engineering, which is no longer there. So my mind was, I always wanted to go to the Olympics. And in 1980, and people say I always wanted to go to the Olympics. Well, when you become a bit older, but in 1980, I was in the factory walking around, and this guy was huge. John Jackman was a giant of a man. He was about 6'5" or 6. He was a huge man. And he walks around. The boss walks around. Everybody scarpers, right? Everybody runs to start letting on they're doing something, right? So anyway, he come over to me. Like, I was only 16 at the time, and he says to me, "The Moscow Olympics are on the TV, And he says to me, "How come you're not at the Olympics?" You know what? He sparked something in my head that day. He said, I thought, he didn't know I was too young, right? But I said, no, John, I'm too young. I'm only 16. You have to be over 18, And then that sparked something in my head. He said, he's right. Why aren't I at the Olympics? Actually, I can be at the Olympics. And the guy who just passed away recently, Hughie Russell, won a medal, a bronze medal from Belfast. He won a bronze medal for Ireland at that time in the Moscow Olympics. And that, for me, sparked something. I said, why why can't I be at the Olympics? And why can't I win a medal? Irishman has just won a medal at the Olympics. So that set me on a trail where I was going to get up every morning before I went to work and go running. I was going to go to the gym every day. And I got home from work. I'm a social animal, but I socialized with my friends, but I didn't drink. I didn't do, I would say to my good self, I said, well done. You've made something of yourself. At the time, whether you had all the talent or not, but you had the drive and the desire that was sparked by somebody else.
Wow, that's brilliant. Who would be your dream dinner guest and why?
Oh, jeez.
You can pick a few if you want. Everyone keeps cheating. They have a dinner party, so you can open up if you want.
Or parties, yeah. Yeah, I like my friends actually. Just my yeah, the guys I grew up with, those are still my best friends. So if I was having the dinner party, I'd have Zach Welsh, Paul Harrington, Billy Dodd, Gerard Halligan, all the guys that I grew up playing hurling and football with. And we meet regularly when I go home. Those are the best company. And I brought a few of my friends from here back to the, and they met some of our guys. We went out socializing and they said, you know what? All those guys should be in Hollywood. The stories and the yarns and the jokes. I've never heard anything like them. He said, stand-up comedians. All of them are stand-up comedians. You don't get that. You don't get the crack over here. You know.
No. Yeah. How do you find it actually in the Olympic training facility? I'm sure it's amazing. I've watched some of the basketball videos of it. Do you get to interact with the other coaches or disciplines at all? Have you had much interaction?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, when I was on the program there the last couple of years, there was like 20 of us. The 20 of the top coaches in the country were selected to go on this course, and it was great development and interaction. We're right next door to the wrestling, who were the best team in the world in wrestling. They're right beside us. So yeah, we have lunch together. Yeah, we mingle. I go in, and if I'm having a bad day or having some trouble with something, I'd go in and ask their coaches. They come into us and say, look, how have you dealt with this situation? And those guys have back-to-back Olympics, back-to-back World Championships. They're always finishing number one. I keep telling them, because we've got a smaller space, and I'm going to say, we're going to lock down next year. We're going to win the most of the medals at the Olympics. We're going to lock down that wall. We're taking half of your gym, right? But we haven't achieved it yet, but we're working towards taking over.
Yeah. So I'm going to ring you this time, after the Olympics next year, and I'm going to wait to see all the pictures of the place being knocked down.
Yeah, nice.
Billy, last question before I let you go. If your life was a book, what chapter would this be called?
Oh, a very good question. Sometimes my dad was a funny guy, and when he got a bit older, he used to say to us, I said, how, he said, I'm in the departure lounge now. But I'm not quite in the departure lounge yet. I think I have a bit to go. I don't know where I'm at. Yeah, I think there's a few best days ahead of me. I haven't thought of retirement. Well, I suppose when you get to 60, it comes to your mind. Do I have to retire? But then figuring out what you would do after, so I don't know. At the moment, obviously, I'm fixated on Paris, and we've had talks and negotiations around LA 2028, which would be, there's probably a piece of me invested when I didn't get picked for the games in '84. It would be nice to go back 100 years later as a coach, So if God spares me, I don't know. I think, where am I? I'm not in the twilight of my career. I think there's still more to come. I'm probably heading into the best years of my life.
Brilliant. Great stuff. Well, look, I just want to wish you the best of luck with Paris and beyond. Hopefully I might see you over there. I have tickets to a couple of the events. I'll give you a shout. And yeah, just thanks a million for your time. I really appreciate it, and best of luck with everything.
Will this be your first Olympic Games?
Yeah, first ever one. Never been.
Great. It's fantastic. It is. I'm a Olympic junkie. I think it's the greatest show on earth. No doubt.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Enjoy it.
Yeah, I'll let you go. Thanks so much for your time. I'll chat to you soon.
Talk to you soon.